Get the latest NASCAR t-shirts, hats, and die-casts at the NASCAR.com Superstore. Visit NASCAR.com/Superstore today for all your favorite drivers' gear. Maybe your favorite driver is Carl Edwards. And the number 19, he's won here at this racetrack 3 times. That has found himself in a little bit of a predicament. He's 32 points behind the cut line right now. So Carl Edwards, after Martinsville and a wreck at Martinsville, finds himself in a bit of a hole that he'll have to dig out of over the next 2 races. So it's not a must-win situation this weekend because of the fact that other drivers could have issues. He could go out and have 2 great races and still get in based upon points, but he can't have another problem. He can't have another issue and think that he can still get in based on points. The bumps, as we continue to watch these drivers go over them, the 4 of Kevin Harvick had his hands full. We've seen numerous drivers get a little bit loose. We even saw Kyle Busch go over the bumps and get into the wall. And Jeff, you were just out on the track in the NBC Sports on-track Camry. And I'm telling you, watching it and listening to you go around that track, it looked like you were pushing it pretty hard out there, and your car got a little loose going over the bumps.
Well, bumps are just, they're big. I mean, they're just big and they're long. They don't happen in a 2 or 3 foot section. They feel like they're like 6 foot long. And so when you hit them, the car is loaded up. They're in the corners. So the car is loaded up on the springs, on the bump stops, and when you hit them, it upsets the car. And we can see it clearly as we're watching these cars. You see some of them roll through the bumps better than the other ones. And Steve talks about it every week. You know, you can make it just glide right over those things, like real soft and nice and easy. But guess what? The entire rest of the racetrack you're slow in. So you have to try to manage the bumps, and you can't let it mess your whole lap up. But at the same time, you can't sacrifice the whole lap just because of the bumps.
Well, I just wanted to add on one of Carl's teammates. That would be Matt Kenseth. He's rolling back onto the racetrack right now after making a rather interesting adjustment to the race car. They had the right rear wheel assembly completely off the car, disassembled. It was so odd to see. I inquired with crew chief Jason Radcliffe to see if something had actually broken. He just told me, no, nothing's broken. We're just making an adjustment. But it seemed pretty significant, Steve, in the sense that they had the whole wheel assembly off the car.
Well, yeah, so basically, you know, when we talk about adjustments crew chiefs can make, the list is very, very long, and the crew chief has to manage how much time he wants to use during practice to change things. Camber is a tool that the drivers and teams use to make their car handle. So, you know, what is camber? So let's go in this NASCAR Heat Evolution animation. We can describe basically what the camber is to the tire, and it's the angle in which the tire is tipped. On the right side, the top goes in. On the left side, the top goes out. But this is something that we show in the front tires, but Jeff, also it exists in the rear tires.
It does. Rear camber affects the way the rear of the car not turns the car, but it affects the way the rear grips. So you can do the same thing. You can see how the edges, the outside edge and the inside edge of the tires, it drives those tires into the racetrack as you adjust that camber. Now, there's a point you can go too far and actually damage the tire. You saw the left rear tire on the 22 car explode going down the straightaway. Right. And that can be too much camber, that can be low air pressure. We saw the 4 car have a problem. So it's more than just camber. There's other things that affect tire problems as well.
There is, but you know, camber is something they can adjust to. So Mike's report, as we see these cars having issues here in the spring, well, to adjust rear camber, Rick, remember this is a solid rear axle. So to adjust it, there aren't just shims you take in and out to tip the tire in like you would an upper control arm. The only way you do it, you have to remove the hub, change some shimming on that, and put the entire hub and assembly back on. That's a major change, and can be concerning because when you start removing that hub with the grease and the bearings in this dirty racetrack atmosphere, you can cause other issues.
And unlike the front, where you can just take shims out and lean the tire in, lean the tire out, with the rear, imagine turning a circle. When you turn that circle and it's an offset circle like an egg, it not only adjusts the camber, it also has a little bit of effect on the rear toe. So we hear so much about rear skew and how the rear turns the car. As you turn that rear snout with that adjustment, it also can affect the toe and the camber. So in many cases, you're making 2 changes. You may affect the camber more than the toe, or vice versa, but they both affect each other.
Do you check tire temperature to figure out as far as camber? Because on the rear, is it you know, part of the tires a little bit hotter because that is on the track?
I mean, basically, you know, when a driver comes in, like the 20 Matt Kenseth is doing right here, they come in and they stop in the garage. We talk about information the crew chiefs have. Well, not only do they plug into the computer and get all the engine information and how Matt Kenseth was driving, but the other things they'll do is they will measure the shocks and see how much travel the car got at max travel. But then they'll also get a lot of tire information. They'll check how much the air pressure built up with heat to let them know which tire is working. And then to your point, they'll check not just tire temperatures, but across the width of each tire in 3 locations. And then they can compare not just right front to right rear, Jeff, but they can compare the inside of the right front to the outside. And they might say, you know what, we are driving great, but we're overworking the inside of that tire. And you know, camera's your friend. The more camera, the better the car turns, but you still have to make the tires lift.
Well, that's right. And now with 25 minutes left in practice, you have to understand also they have older tires to look at. So the tires, when they're new, their catalog, they know how much rubber each tire has on it. They can take those tires off and remeasure that tire and see how much wear there is. So later in the practice, you now have more information. So they took tires off from yesterday. They took tires off from this first practice. Now they have a measurement on older tires, and they can make that adjustment not just with the heat, but also with actual tire wear with older tires.
Thanks, Rick. You brought me right back to late nights digging through reams and reams of paper comparing tire information.
I'll see good tonight, Rick.
That is why I'm here. As we look at the best 10-lap average, Martin Truex Jr. could be the spoiler in Texas.